devices or make sure they are on silent. I must also make you all aware, delegates, visitors and staff, that all Congress sessions will be filmed and shown live on YouTube. Congress. This week I will be joined at the table by Margaret Gregg of the CEC. She has been nominated to help the chair Congress this year and cover my usual duties at the top table. Thank you, Margaret. We are beginning our conference differently this year with a tribute to Mary Turner. This is ahead of our customary Congress welcome and banner ceremony. The SOC has also granted us permission to move CEC Rule Amendment 1 after our tribute. I have on stage with me Lisa, who is Mary's granddaughter, and also Barbara, who was Mary's best friend. Lisa will be receiving Mary's gold badge to mark her CEC membership. Both Lisa and the General Secretary will be saying some words about Mary. I welcome Lisa and her family to Congress this year, and I welcome her to address Congress after Tim. Normally we have a minute's silence, but I've been requested this year instead that we have a minute of applause. Can we now take that minute of applause, please? Colleagues. A video will now be played honouring Mary's life. Colleagues, I will now ask the General Secretary to take the rostrum to speak and present Lisa with Mary's gold badge.
Good morning, Conference. And I'm hugely honoured to celebrate and pay tribute to our incredible National President, Mary Turner, and it's especially fitting and moving to do so at GMB Congress, a venue that was Mary's home, where she excelled and where she absolutely belonged. Her young years in Tipperary, a working-class girl from a working-class family, I'm not sure that Mary O'Brien, as she was then, would ever have dreamt that after her final moments had passed, her life would be celebrated by so many under the dome of St Paul's Cathedral. How fitting and appropriate was that? Mary's family settled in Kilburn, North London, and the first thing her father asked when she started work at 16 was, "Have you joined the union yet?" Today, we're all thankful that the answer to that question was yes. Mary worked in a tailor's on Oxford Street and joined the Tailor and Garment Workers Union, which fittingly is now part of the GMB, before working in the print trade where, unsurprisingly, she was elected Mother of the Chapel. During this time, Mary met and married her husband, Denny Turner, within 6 weeks of their first meeting. So sure was Mary that he was the one. They have 2 children, Denise and John, grandchildren, Lisa, Anthony, Louise, Jack and Katie, a great-grandchildren, Jessica, Millie Jo, Hallie, Freddie, Dennis, and the little one, Holly. Mary adored her family, and by God, her family adored her back. And they were all so generous in their support of Mary's huge devotion to her other family, the trade union and labour movement. She hated unfairness, and if she saw it, it didn't matter who you were or how big, you were going to get the wrath of Mary Turner. All I can say is I'm bloody glad I was on Mary's side. One of the first to feel that wrath was the management at Salisbury Road School in Brent, where Mary went to work as a dinner lady after her Denise and John got older. She took no time to see that staff weren't being treated right and recruited all 9 into the GMWU. She raised the unfairness and management demanded to know who she was. "I'm their representative," she growled, and the rest is history. And it was at that very school that Mary would see 2 queues of kids lining up for dinner, those who paid and those who couldn't afford to. Kids going hungry, and the stigma of a different queue lit Mary's passion for free school meals, a passion that burned in her till her final days, by which time she was thrilled to see that it is now part of the Labour manifesto to ensure all kids get free school meals. Mary was really becoming active throughout the 1980s, along with her partner in crime, Barbara Benham, a time which both summed up as fun, but bloody hard work. One such time was when local government pay talks were taking place in Red Lion Square in London, and Mary and Barbara and the gang went to demonstrate outside. Charlie Donnet was the national officer for the union. He was leading talks inside, and Mary asked one of the coppers if she and Barbara could go and use the loo. Of course, using her persuasive tongue, she got a yes, and once inside, they could hear Charlie's voice, and the door to the room was slightly open. In order to get a better listen, Barbara got on her hands and knees, and Mary climbed on top of Barbara, when all of a sudden the door burst open and both rolled in on the floor. Can you imagine Charlie's face when both got escorted out by security? Things were far from easy for Mary, especially being a woman, as when she was first elected to the GMB executive, she was the only woman out of 40. She was bluntly told at the time that she'd taken some other man's seat and that she wouldn't last longer than a 2-year term. How wrong they were, as she continually showed exactly what she was about. Mary Turner really was a giant amongst men. In 1997, she was elected as our president and served in that role every single year since. Alongside that, she was a long-standing and highly influential member of the Labour's national executive, including being chair of the party in 2004. It was what she achieved in that time that was so incredible and was so right, therefore, that she was honoured with an MBE for her services to the movement in the 2010 New Year's Honours List, an honour which I know she was so hugely proud, and so were her union. Our Mary was an inspiration that showed time and again that we can all fight to make the world a fairer and better place, and we in the GMB will continue this fight in Mary's name. This Congress just won't be the same. Mary has been a fixture, chairing business for longer than some of our young members in the audience today have even been alive. Always a calming and supporting figure to first-time delegates, as knees knocked at the rostrum but a firm hand when delegates tried to bend the rules. Always with humour, always with compassion, always for a united GMB, and always with warmth that so many remember her for. It's typical of Mary that she made and kept friends from all parts of her life. Time and again I would be with her when someone would come running across and greet her with enthusiasm, ask her for advice, or proudly give her an update on how they were getting on. She never failed to recall their names and invariably had some funny story about them from their past, just showing what a brilliant and sharp mind Mary always had. Mary was a natural leader, the rock around which the GMB has been built, the beating heart of our great union. That flame has gone out, but not that fire. Our fire is Mary's legacy, a legacy of which I know her wonderful family are so very proud. And talking of fire, the orange in our GMB colours will always burn bright to remind us of the fiery, warm, red-haired fighter that was our Mary. Following Mary's passing, I opened a book of condolence for Mary and her family. It was just the right thing to do, and I know people have already shared special memories, but if you haven't, it's out in the foyer here. Please feel free to write your own tributes. But you realise then just how special and unique Mary was by the huge number of messages received, international, national presidents, prime ministers, socialists, trade union leaders, past and present. But then thousands from ordinary working people, some who knew Mary very well, but others who had met her once or twice only, but whose lives she touched forever. And there are words that recur in every single tribute: kind, generous, caring, funny, fearless, inspirational, encouraging, a fighter, someone who never forgot their roots. You know, none of us are indispensable. So very few are irreplaceable. Mary Turner was irreplaceable. Thank you for your life, Mary, for all that you did for millions of working people across our movement, especially in our great union. Your union and your Congress will never forget you. It now gives me great pleasure to present Mary's gold badge to her granddaughter, Lisa Fulmer.
Malcolm, Vice President, Congress, first-time guest, first-time speaker. When Tim asked me to speak at Congress, I knew it would be incredibly difficult to sum into a few words Nan's contribution to the GMB, the trade union movement, and to the wider community. Mary was an active trade unionist for over 40 years, from being the mother of the chapel at a local printing firm to being a dinner lady campaigning for improved pay and conditions for school dinner staff in Brent. The fight for free school meals was always Mary's campaign, and I am proud that this is now incorporated in Labour Party policy, and I know the GMB will ensure that this legacy lives on. As a result of her trade union activities, she was blacklisted in the 1980s. It was something she was immensely proud of, because she knew she must have been doing something right if Margaret Thatcher's government had decided that she was a threat. Nan enjoyed being a nuisance, as you all well know. She was proud to be speaking out for working people in a language that they understood and putting the case for a fair and just society. She was passionate about being about young people and fought to get better pay, housing rights and work opportunities for the young people. She held the position of Shropshire Branch Secretary for the Hendon branch for over 26 years. and was on London Regional Council and Committee and was fully elected onto the CEC in 1983 and served 34 years. Mary was fully aware that women were not expected to move up the ladder, but everyone she came into contact with her learned that she was not going away. She encouraged many people to be members and to be active at all levels, and was a shining example to all women. Who better to chair the Women's Task Force? Furthermore, she was so proud to receive the very first Eleanor Marks badge at Congress 2016, to mark her being an inspirational woman and in recognition of her exceptional services to GMB members. At Congress 1997, Mary was elected as the union's national president, and a position she held for over 20 years unopposed. As national president and chair of the CEC, she faced many challenges and struggles to keep the union afloat. She was there as the union moved into new areas of membership and always ensured that GMB continued to fight bad employers and injustices. Mary was committed to the defence of the NHS and the fight against privatisation in all forms, as the workers were always the victims. As chair of GMB Congress, she was understanding, compassionate, fair and professional. She treated everyone as an equal and didn't care for positions or power or personal gain. She made everyone feel at home and would be seen at Congress with her arm around someone or holding a new delegate's hand as they made their first speech. She was a real working class hero, never afraid to say what she thought, and some of you can vouch for that from listening to her Congress speeches. Trade union colleagues from the Magicians' Union recall how they would help Mary put her words to music, but Mary's versions of songs always took a pop at the Tories, something she revelled in, and as I am sure some of you will remember, were often challenging. She was feared by bosses and bullies, and she could hold politicians to account, making some guest speakers scared when she pointed her finger at them, but we all know who was really in charge. Whatever platform she spoke from, whether it was Parliament, Congress, CEC, TUC or our branch, she was always held with the respect that she earned, and she was always worth listening to. For many people, for Mary, people came first. She would always answer a call to a member, and even being hospitalised didn't stop Nan. I have been at Congress with her on many occasions, and she wouldn't walk more than a few feet without someone stopping her for a chat or for some support or advice. If we was leaving the hotel at 8 p.m, I would have to make sure I was pulling her out the door at least an hour and a half beforehand. Otherwise, we would be eating our evening meal at midnight, which Nan would then class as having her breakfast too. All the great things that made our union and trade union movement are embodied in the memory of Mary Turner. She never forgot her roots as a GMB activist. I have never met anyone else with the same personal commitment and encouragement that Mary showed in her battles and dedication to fight for the working class and to stand up against injustice, bullying, harassment and any form of intimidation. Most people say I'm just like my Nan, but there will only ever be one Mary Turner. Mary was pure gold. In 2012, she was awarded the TUC Women's Gold Badge to celebrate and recognise her contribution to the trade union movement. As an example, in 1983, when the TUC March for Jobs took place, Mary's members donated a week's pay to support the marches who were cared for by school meal staff when they arrived in London. Tributes have continued to pour into the family from people from all walks of life, and for these we will forever be grateful. She was the beating heart of the GMB, and her principles and values will remain at the heart of the union. She devoted her life to the trade union and labour movement and rubbed shoulders with the great and the good. She never brought up her own problems, never complained, just continued her fight for justice and equality. As a family, we fully supported her in whatever she did and shared her with you all, and I would like to wish the incoming president, national president, every success. Before I come to an end, I would just like to say a special thank you to 3 people who are here today. Firstly, to Barbara Benham, who you will all know as Nan's true friend and always was through thick and thin. Don't look at me like that. For over 60 years, they were joined at the hip and never once had an argument. Without Barbara, there was no Mary, and together, they were united. So Barbara, thank you. Thank you for being so dedicated to Nan and our family, and thank you for everything that you do for us all. Secondly, I would like to say a really special thank you to 2 other people here today, which is also their first time to Congress, and that is my 2 daughters, Jessica and Millie. We all know that being part of the GMB requires hard work, passion, dedication, and commitment, as well as unsociable hours. Supporting Nan over the years showed what type of energy was needed, whether it be spending time with Grandad, who most of you will all know as my Denny, or accompanying Nan to various places around the world. But in doing so, this took me away from you 2. My time with both my grandparents was always precious to me and somewhat limited, and the memories I have I will cherish forever. Your love and understanding allowed me extra time for Nan and Grandad, and also gave me extra moments to love and care for them, and that's all I ever wanted to do. So Jessica and Millie, I love you, and thank you for supporting me for caring for our grandparents. Vice President, Congress, delegates, I am proud and privileged to accept this gold badge in her memory, and on behalf of my family, I would like to dedicate this to the thousands of trade unionists across the world who have been bullied and murdered simply because they want fairness and justice. Thanks, Tim, as well.
I will now call on Vice President Malcolm Sage to move CEC Rule Amendment 1, Mary Turner House.
Conference, Malcolm Sage moving CEC Rule Amendment 1, Mary Turner House, on behalf of the CEC. Congress, as a mark of tribute and great respect to our Mary, the CEC is asking Congress to support the change of the name of our GMB National Office to Mary Turner House. Please support this amendment.
Does anyone wish to speak against CEC Rule Amendment 1? Don't think so. I now put CEC Rule Amendment 1 to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. I don't think I need to ask anybody against. Thank you, Congress.
Colleagues, we will now have the National Banner Ceremony, which is the traditional opening of Congress. And this year, Midland and East Coast Region are forming the Banner Party. Would you please stand to greet the National Banner? Thank you, Midland East Coast Region. Congress, we will now start Congress with a short opening video.
Being part of the GMB is much more than just being a member of a trade union. It's about being part of a family. And in families, you're there for each other, always fighting for each other and protecting each other. People are members of GMB for many different reasons, but what unites us all is that we're in it to improve the working lot for every single GMB member.
I'm GMB for more secure jobs.
I'm GMB because they support you in the workplace and they support good apprenticeships. GMB is totally in my blood and we are the best campaigning union in Britain.
I'm GMB because I believe in the power of education to transform lives.
I'm GMB for protection at work.
We believe in fighting for equality, we're a family and we'll seek out injustice wherever it takes place.
They do what they say on the tin, they stand up for their members and they put members first.
They're always there for you.
I'm GMB because we're on the side of the workers, not the bosses.
I believe passionately in the power of the collective. I know that united we're so much stronger than we are divided.
It's a fantastic union that generates and cultivates a workplace full of activists, as well as having a national impact and fighting for workers' rights.
I'm GMB because I believe in justice for all.
I'm GMB because they look after everyone's welfare and they support good apprenticeships.
I'm GMB because I believe that it's time for ordinary working people to have better living standards.
I'm GMB because we all need someone standing up for us at work.
We will fight employers if they exploit our members or disrespect them.
I'm GMB for a fairer world.
To help others.
For a better future. Because we look out for each other.
Because we get things done.
I want to make a difference. I want to stand up for people. I want to make things better.
I'm GMB because I stand shoulder to shoulder with people who make a difference to working people's lives day in and day out. For better pay, for better conditions, for better rights, for fairness, for equality, for justice. We are there for our members. We are a family. Together, we are GMB. Welcome to Congress, everybody. Let's make it the best one yet.
Congress, together with my Vice Chair, Margaret Gregg, and my General Secretary, Tim Roach, we would like to welcome you all to GMB Congress 2018. We would also like to give a warm welcome to our verbatim shorthand writers, Phyllis Hilder and Michael Thayer. We also have Lindsay Mann and Mel Barlett helping with the lights this year. We will also be joined by National Office colleagues across the Congress sessions to take part in the debates. You will find details of the fire and excavation procedure on page 4 of the Congress Guide. Please take time to look at these, familiarise yourself with the nearest exits. If a venue manager comes in onto the stage, it will be to announce an evacuation. Please listen carefully. As Congress falls during Ramadan, we have allocated Office 7 on the 3rd floor behind the stage for use as a prayer room. We have not had any requests for signers this year, but if you require any assistance, please go to the info desk. Firstly, could I extend a warm welcome to all delegates, but especially to any first-time delegates. If you are due to speak, we have some procedures you should follow and be mindful of. Please show your credentials to our colleagues at the desk in the front of the rostrum so that your name can be shown on screen. Also, say your name and region for the verbatim record. Mention if you are a first-time speaker. Could I remind delegates again that all Congress sessions are filmed and will be shown live on YouTube. This means that your speech will be shown live over the internet, so please don't use any inappropriate language. We have a packed agenda this year. Please listen carefully to my announcements. Where changes are expected, I will try to give delegates advance warning. Those of you able to stand, please rise as a mark of respect for our departed GMB colleagues, and their names will be shown on the screen and listed in the Congress Guide. Thank you, colleagues. Details on tellers can be found on page 3 of your Congress guide. All tellers must remain in the hall while Congress is in session, and delegates must be in their allotted seats when a vote is taken. Could I welcome the General Member Auditor, who will be supervising counts of votes? It's John Swainson of the Northern Region. To see if you are eligible to vote, please look down at your Congress credentials. If it says the word delegate, then you can vote. All others in the hall are not eligible to vote. Could I congratulate Helen Johnson on her election as Chair of the Standing Orders Committee for the 11th year. Well done, Helen. I will now call on Helen, Chair of the SOC, to move Standing Orders Committee Report number 1, which is on page 21 of your final agenda. Helen.
Vice Chair, Congress. Helen Johnson, Midland and East Coast Region, Standing Orders Committee Chair, formally moving SOC Report number 1. Congress, you will find a copy of the report in your final agenda starting at page 21. I formally move adoption of that report, and in doing so, the SOC would like to thank delegates and their regional secretaries for agreeing 27 composite motions that will also appear in your final agenda, starting on page 122. Would colleagues also please note the long-standing guidelines for Congress business on page 16 of your final agenda. This will help all of you, but especially new delegates, in understanding the procedures and guidelines that the President and the SOC work to. Withdrawn motions. The SOC has been informed that the following 31 motions have been withdrawn. These are Motion 4, Motion 5, Motion 18, Motion 22, Motion 34, Motion 35, Motion 39, Motion 52, Motion 54, Motion 60, Motion 91, Motion 93, Motion 94, Motion 102, Motion 103, Motion 114, Motion 121, Motion 202, Motion 209, Motion 213, Motion 255, Motion 256, Motion 257, Motion 261, Motion 262, Motion 276, Motion 277, Motion 278, Motion 281, Motion 311, and Motion 378. I'll just quickly give you those numbers again if you're writing them down. That was 4, 5, 18, 22, 34, 35, 39, 52, 54, 60, 91, 93, 94, 102, 103, 114, 121, 202, 209, 213, 255, 256, 257, 261, 262, 276, 277, 278, 281, 311 and 378. Would Congress delegates please note if any further motions are to be withdrawn during the week, you must advise your regional secretary, who will in turn advise the SOC. Existing policy motions. Congress, in accordance with Congress decisions adopted since 2008, the SOC is recommending that motions which are existing policy are endorsed by Congress without the need for debate. Following advice from the CEC on the particular motions in question. The existing policy motions are listed in SOC Report number 1 at page 23 of your final agenda. You may also find it helpful to refer to the detailed report from the CEC, which is at page 144 of the final agenda. The letters EP appear by the side of such motions in your final agenda. Emergency motions. The SOC has accepted an emergency motion as being in order for debate. This is Emergency Motion 1, the murder of 3 Nestlé trade unionists in Colombia, standing in the name of Yorkshire and North Derbyshire region. The SOC is recommending that this be heard on the Wednesday afternoon session. Motions out of order. Congress, as you know, 2018 is not a rules revision year. The SOC has therefore ruled that the following motions are out of order for debate. Firstly, there is one motion dealing with GMB Congress that is out of order for debate. This is because amendments would be required to GMB rules to give effect for its provisions. This is motion 7, CEC and Congress speakers. Secondly, there are 2 motions dealing with GMB contributions that are out of order for debate, as they also would require rule amendments. They are motion 23, recruiting young members, and motion 62, minimum wage subs. And thirdly, motion 253, Labour Party, is out of order for debate because if adopted, the consequences of the motion would also require rule amendments. Congress, there are additionally 8 motions that refer to the pay or terms and conditions of GMB employees. These are motion 41, Regional Secretaries Pay Award, motion 42, Regional Secretaries Pay, motion 43, Regional Secretaries Pay Award, motion 44, Deliberate Uplift in Salaries Without a Job Evaluation, motion 45, Fat Cats Within Our Ranks, motion 46, ACAS Pay and Grading Guidelines Not Exempt for GMB Officials, motion 47, GMB Trade Union adheres to ACAS Guidelines as Recognised Employer, and motion 49, GMB Vehicle Provision. Congress 1985 adopted a special motion. This motion is printed in your Guidelines for Congress Business at page 19 of the final agenda and confirms that matters relating to the pay, terms and conditions of GMB employees are matters for the CEC. Rule 17A.1 provides that the CEC has full authority over all national, sectional and regional officers and has the final say over all matters relating to their conditions of employment. None of these motions seek to reverse the 1985 resolution. Therefore, all 8 motions are considered to be out of order for debate. Vice President, Congress, I formally move adoption of SOC Report Number 1.
Thank you, Helen. Is there any delegates who wishes to speak on any of the SOC recommendations? And can I say that if they are for reference back, I will not allow speeches on your thing. I'll only allow the reason why you want it referred back. Okay?
Tony Charlton, London Region, responding to SOC 1 regarding motion 23. Vice President, Congress. SOC 1 has ruled motion 23 out of order on the grounds that it requires a rule change to Rule 45, stating that it calls for entry-level membership for young people to rise to full membership over a period of time. This is incorrect. This motion merely asks GMB to consider this option to help us all recruit and retain young members. The apprentice and part-time rates were given as examples only. Therefore, as this does not call for a rule change, it is not out of order. Congress, it is for delegates to decide whether this motion should be debated and not the SOC. But look around you and see how many young people are here. Congress, please allow this motion back on the agenda so that you can decide its merits. Please support.
Thank you.
Vice President, Chair, Congress. Doug Rigby, London Region, seeking to challenge SOC Report Number 1 on Motion 49, GMB Vehicle Provision. This motion is merely seeking a review which is in line with current policy and has been debated in Congress. I can show you how conditions of employment have been discussed at Congress and policy formed. In 2007, the CEC Special Report on the Environment agreed to challenge an eco-friendly car fleet for GMB officers. In 2008, Motion 10 on green options was carried. In 2016, Motion 31 asked for a review of GMB's carbon footprint, and it was referred. So what has changed this year? We're asking for a uniform policy to be applied. The CEC position stated our car fleet is one of the most environmentally friendly in the country. But this is incorrect, as it fails to address those at senior level, which is what the motion is about. Yes, hybrid cars are used for GMB car fleet. However, certain staff over senior organisers' grades, such as regional secretaries, national secretaries, are outside this arrangement and are free
Cut it short, colleague. I don't want the speech.
And free to order whatever they want. More so now with their £5,000 pay increase. We want an existing policy.
Colleague, please cut it short. I don't want speeches. You've made your point. Thank you.
I've finished.
No, finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Faith, London Region, challenging the SOC over Resolution 43, Regional Secretaries Pay Award. The SOC have argued that we as Congress are not empowered to determine the wages, conditions, etc. of GMB employees, and we respect that and accept that. But if you take the time to look at Resolution 43, which I would urge you to do now, you'll see that it doesn't seek to determine any of their pay, but it does say that we have an opinion on what has been decided. And our position as the London Region is very simple, that it is within the rules of our union for us as delegates, us as Congress, the sovereign body of this union, to take a view and to express an opinion on a matter like this. And for this reason, we argue that Resolution 43 should be put to this Congress, should be discussed and should be voted on.
Congress President Cathy Holland, London Region, speaking on SO's Report 43. Although these motions have been ruled out of order, this goes against the GMB Equal Pay Toolkit and should be debated. Needless to say, while all GMB members are made to show restraint, what this says, we will disregard what our members are saying. Thank you.
John Dolan, GMB Scotland, challenging SOCs. The reason we ask for refers back is that very shortly we'll be asking for the subsidy to be put up. We're meant to be leaders, and our leaders have been awarded an increase which is really disgusting actually. We're not here challenging their percentage increase. It's a £5,000 award. Whoever made that decision to award that was totally out of order. Know the reference, and we're asking for reference back.
Malcolm?
All right, Joel.
Tim? Congress, colleagues, I'm challenging what these gentlemen are saying here regarding 43. Now, the reason I'm challenging, not because it's a regional secretary, general secretary, or anybody else. In Liverpool, I've got a colleague sitting out there who sat down and done between 15 and 17,000 equal pay claims. 17,000, that's without, and then there's another 6,000 for schools. And when an award was won by our colleagues, we didn't once challenge it because they earned it. We didn't go out and say they shouldn't get it. We told them what we got in the best interest of them. We had the council on our backs. We told them years ago that we were coming over job evaluation and equal pay. What you're asking for, and it's on television, going right round the world, telling them, doesn't matter you've got job evaluation. The GMB says if it goes above a certain amount, you can say no. Well, you can't say no. If it's agreed and it's done properly, that's what they're awarded. And we support that right round to all our members. Whether whoever gets it, I'm not interested in because it's a general secretary or a regional secretary. I'm interested that they are a person of our union and we support them and we should back them to the hilt. I oppose what they're saying.
Anybody else? Have you all done? Right, we'll put those motions to Congress then. All those in favour of motion 23... Sorry, Ellen. Sorry, Ellen, yes.
Acting President, Congress, Helen Johnson, Midland and East Coast Region, Chair of Standing Orders Committee, responding to the request for reference back. Colleagues, in doing so, can I remind delegates that the SOC, as lay delegates themselves, do not look at the merits or substance of the motions. The SOC only considers whether they are in order for debate or not, and by reference to the long-standing criteria set out in the guidelines for Congress and supported by previous GMB Congresses. I'll deal with each request for reference back in turn. And forgive me if I missed something here because it was a little unclear which ones were being objected to by who. However, I did get motion 23. This motion calls for entry-level membership for young workers, increasing to full membership over a period of time. This would require a rule amendment, since Rule 45 sets out reduced rates for young members. Non-working students, £1 a month. Apprentices, £2 a month. Under 18, £7.72 a month. Therefore, the motion is actually out of order for debate because it would require a rule amendment. And then the rest of them, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, related to the motions to do with the terms of employment for GMB employees. These motions listed refer to the pay terms and conditions, and in 1985 Congress did adopt that special motion. It is printed there for you all to read. Reserve such matters for the CEC, not for debate at Congress. Rule 17A.1 clearly outlines the responsibility there. The CEC has full authority over all national, sectional and regional officers and has the final say over such matters relating to employment. Therefore, the SOC believes that these motions are out of date. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Colleagues, the CEC are asking you to vote against all reference back. I will now take the vote. Motion 23, reference back. All those in favour, please show. Those against? That's lost. Motion 49, reference back. All those in favour, please show. All those against? That's lost. And motion 43, all those in favour of reference back, please show. Those against? That's lost. I will now take a vote on SOC report number 1. All those in favour of the SOC report number 1, please show. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, colleagues. These are the rules you have adopted for the conduct of Congress for the coming week.
It gives me great pleasure to call on our Vice President to address Congress. Malcolm.
Congress, it's with great pride, but also sadness, that I address you today as our acting president. I have served our union for 51 years, starting out in 1967 and working my way up to the platform today. I have served GMB as your vice president for 11 years, and as we heard this morning, serve as your acting president today after the sad passing of Mary Turner, who was beloved by us all and a true friend to me and my family. But Mary would not want us to mourn. She would want us to organise as she did for her whole working life. And that is what I know we will all do. This Congress will unveil a new GMB logo, saying clearly and proudly that we are GMB. Our opening video showed why many of you joined our great union and why you are GMB members. Congress, I'm GMB because as much as the world of work has changed in the last few decades, one thing remains true and constant. We're better off together than we are alone. Working people standing shoulder to shoulder will always have more power than a lone voice. As I look around the Congress Hall, I see hundreds of activists who make a difference day in and day out, and I want to thank you all. Being here for everything you do and for being what GMB is truly about. I don't remember a trade conference in existence that has ever started with "as all well job done." This year is no different. In some ways, being a committed trade unionist is a thankful task. No matter how much we achieve, there is always more to do, because we'll always want better for our members. We win better pay with one employer, and another exploits workers in a gig economy. As we enforce the rights of workers in one place, other unscrupulous bosses find new loopholes to make a quick quid on the back of their workforce. And you can bet that on every possible chance they get, the government will make it harder for us to organise. Congress, it was ever thus. We're not strangers to adversity. We're not strangers to the bosses and Tories attacking us. It's how we were formed and how we grew and it's how we thrive. Over the next few days, you will play a key role in driving our union's agenda for the coming year. What we do here matters, and it will be an exciting Congress. We have businesses on the floor, regional receptions, fringes, workshops, and a visit from the Labour Party leader, and plenty going on at the National Office stand, where you can try out our soon-to-be-launched website, to be filmed on the green screen and build a Making It wall for those who feel they've missed their calling as a brickie. As your chair, and with CEC member Margaret Gregg as the vice chair position for this Congress, it falls to me to say that we have a lot to get through. I'm going to ask that delegates stick to time, because otherwise you'll be sitting in this hall way past dinner. Congress, delegates, welcome to Brighton and Congress 2018. Let's make it a good one.
I call on Margie Clark, a CEC member from Birmingham and West Midlands region, to give a vote of thanks to the Vice President.
Thank you.
Margie Clark, Birmingham and West Midlands region, proud to be moving the vote of thanks for Malcolm Sage, our acting president. Congress, I suppose the most sensible way to begin a vote of thanks to Malcolm is to echo what our president, our Mary, used to say about Malcolm, and that was she saw him as her rock. ever present to support both her and the union, and always willing to stand in when a smoke break beckoned. And if Malcolm was her rock, I sort of pictured Malcolm as the Rock Hudson to Mary's Doris Day, although I've always thought of Mary as more of a flame-haired Maureen O'Hara figure, which would then put Malcolm as a John Wayne co-star. So don't be surprised this week if when as a delegate you demand to speak longer than allowed, getting a response from Malk saying, "The hell you will, duck." And I'm sure Mary will be smiling down on you this week, watching you chair the proceedings of Congress with your own unique professional style and manner. Malcolm, I understand, is a Mansfield lad through and through. And over there in Mansfield, they refer to people in a friendly way as duck. It's always, "Are you all right, duck? There you go, duck." And through the more heated debates this week, the sharp-eared amongst you may overhear Malcolm saying, "That's that duck from such a region. It will probably sound like duck." Malcolm has been Vice President of our proud union for 15 years. He is known for being fair-minded, always willing to listen and offer help to any delegate who may need it. Malcolm is also known for keeping proceedings moving along without undue delay, or in the case of the senior management team meetings, which Malcolm also chairs, then it's without any undue pontificating. Let me tell you, anyone that controls that group of superegos as efficiently as he does deserves a medal. My suggestion to the Brexit negotiators in government is get Malcolm to chair the meetings. We would have a good deal in record time and still have time to have a smoke break or two along the way. For new delegates here this week, Malcolm will be, as usual, patient and supportive. And for those delegates that have been around the Congress block a few times that try it on, they will get short shrift from him. You see, with Malcolm, the clue to his success as chairman is his name, Malcolm Sage. A sage is, it says in the English Oxford Dictionary, someone who is wise as a result of great experience. And that is definitely true about Malcolm, which is why it gives me great pride and pleasure to be moving this vote of thanks. So delegates, have a great week of debate and discussion, and join me in thanking Malcolm for all he does for our great union. We always used to say, "Our Mary," in an affectionate way. Well, let's all thank our Malcolm for being just that. Thank you, Malcolm. I move.
Thank you, Margie. Pay you later. Congress, before we begin our first debate, I would like to explain a few points of procedure. Please listen carefully. To save time, I will take the motions in groups. Your session programmes will be shown the grouping. If you are speaking on any of these motions, register at the desk in the front of the stage before going to the chairs. You must do this so that we can put your name up on screen when you start to speak at the rostrum. I will call movers and seconders, and then anyone who wishes to speak against the motion. I will call the CEC speaker to reply at the end of the group rather than deal with each motion individually. Where the CEC is supporting a motion, I will advise Congress. And where a CEC has any other positions, the CEC speaker will give the reason for their decision. We will then move to a vote of all the motions in that group. Where there are no speakers against the motions, I will call for the votes on motions in block. Should any delegate wish me to take a separate vote on individual motions, please make this known to me in good time. Finally, could I remind Congress that as you have voted in SOC Report number 1, all existing policy motions will now not be debated.
I call on the Vice President to move CEC Rule Amendments 9 and 10. The CEC Rule Amendments are on page 143 of the final agenda, and the CEC is supporting all of these.
Congress, Malcolm Sage, on behalf of the CEC, moving Rule Amendment CEC RA 9 and 10. Congress, Rule Amendment 9 updates the language used in GMB Scotland. Scotland is a country and our colleagues there need to work on equal terms with the other national Scottish bodies. The rule change follows on from the Motion 5 passed by Congress last year. This is not a change to the structure of our union, and GMB Scotland remains an integral part of the GMB UK. The rule changes ensures that GMB Scotland is treated in all respect as a GMB region in our rules. Rule Amendment 10 strengthens and widens our union aims and objectives. Partly, this is just good practice so that we can't be challenged for doing anything not specifically provided in the rules. The second reason is to underline our ability to communicate with our members on the full range of union activities and membership services, so that we are compliant with the new data protection laws. Congress, please support Rule Amendment 9 and 10.
The rule amendments are formally seconded. Does there anybody wish to speak to any of them? No. I now call for a vote on CEC Rule Amendments CEC RA 9 and 10. All those in favour? Anybody against? These are carried. Thank you.
Congress, we are now moving on to the first of the Congress motions. Can I call Motion 12, the Mary Turner Award by Southern Region to move? CEC are supporting this.
Vice President, Congress. Mary Turner Award, Tim Longwa, Southern Region. Congress, when I knew I had to move this motion, I decided to do some research to write my speech. I thought to myself, why am I doing this? I had the privilege to see Mary in person. What more do I need? So Congress, this is what I saw. This Congress, I hope, believes that the GMB should create a national award in Mary's name. Mary was a national award in her own right, and I'm sure if adopted, Mary will have inspired others to be passionate about trade unionism and workers' rights. If you ever happen to be one of the recipients who receive this award, I know you will look back to see what Mary stood for. This award will keep Mary's name and what she stood for alive. Every year, her name will live again
in Congress, which I'm sure she would have wanted. When Mary was chairman of Congress, she always put speakers at ease and spoke with passion about any subject. I keep thinking about last year at Plymouth. We all knew Mary was not well, but she came to Congress and saw it through. That's what I call commitment, dedication, and total determination, a true inspiration for many years to come. That's where my prepared speech ended, but since I've been here the last couple of days, so many people have spoken to me about Mary and what she stood for. So I'm going to pick up one little story. Last night, I met a man called Gordon, and he told me in 2015 in Dublin, there was a big flight of stairs. Mary stood at the bottom. Basically, to cut a long story short, he picked her up and carried her to the top of the stairs. When they got to the top of the stairs, Mary said, "I'll tell you when to put me down." I think that sort of sums Mary up. So, Congress, I ask this to be adopted. I move. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Vice President, Congress, Martin Dolan, Southern Region, seconding motion 12, Mary Turner Award. The question as to whether a national award in the name of Mary is a question that shouldn't need to be asked. She was president of this union from 1997 to her sad passing. She led by example and from the front. Just a quote that was made once Mary had left us from someone that you may have heard of, General Secretary Tim Roach. I and the whole GMB are truly heartbroken by the loss of our president, Mary Turner, a woman who's been the heart and soul of our union for a generation. The word giant is sometimes overused, but in the case of Mary, she really was a true giant of our movement. Mention the name Mary Turner and people will smile and say she had that unique blend of fighting spirit mixed with care and compassion. As I said at the beginning, this question surely doesn't need asking. I second.
Thank you, Martin. Congress, the CEC are supporting this motion. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. We will now move to the first of our CEC special reports, a review on the GMB elections. I will now explain how I intend to take this debate. I will then call, the report will be moved and seconded. I will then call on only one speaker from each region who wishes to put up a speaker. We will then move to the vote on the special report. Can I now call on Tim Roach to move it and Kath Sutton to second?
Thank you very much, Malcolm. Good morning again, Congress. Tim Roach, moving the CEC special report of GMB elections on behalf of the CEC. Congress Motion 2, referred by Congress 2016, led to the setting up of an election review working party, which included lay CEC members, as well as members of the senior management team and relevant staff members. The working party met several times to discuss and review GMB elections and considered legal advice, best practice from other unions, and issues raised in certification officer cases. The working party reviewed the elections of the CEC, the elections of General Secretary, and following a question raised during a working party meeting, reviewed the election of GMB President and Vice President. Their recommendations were discussed and endorsed by the CEC and are laid out in the CEC special report, along with related recommended rule amendments. The CEC felt that the current election procedures for CEC elections worked well, save for the nomination process, and that ballot packs must be sent by a standalone mail in the future. In other words, no longer tucked inside a magazine or something similar. The issue of deciding if words in an election statement were felt to be defamatory, obscene or otherwise unlawful, and who decides this, was discussed and legal advice sought. That advice is that liability for the content of an election address issued with ballot packs lies with the candidate, and not the union, and the by-election laws will reflect this. Any changes to an election address could only be made with the consent, therefore, of the candidate. The Working Party and the CEC felt that the election process for General Secretary and Treasurer needed updating to ensure more knowledge of the process, more clarity, the widest possible circulation of information regarding the election, more opportunities to introduce potential nominees to branches, and a realistic approach to social media and election hustings. It's hoped that the changes recommended will lead to greater turnout in future elections. In order to introduce potential nominees to branches, a dedicated page on the national website will be created, giving personal details, photo, and a statement by potential nominees. Again, as with the CEC election recommendations, this should make the nomination process for branches more simple. In order to ensure any potential nominee statements are not defamatory or otherwise unlawful, the CEC Finance and General Purposes Committee would be given appropriate powers to remove wording from the statement prior to publication. This would only apply to potential nominee statements and not to supporting statements sent to members with ballot papers. Recommendations are also made on the number of nominations needed, the distribution of ballot packs by direct mail, yet again avoiding what happened in the last General Secretary election, hustings, and clear criteria on eligibility to stand for election and social media activity during elections. Congress, the Working Party and the CEC agreed that social media activity is almost impossible to police, but are recommending a period of purdah during the election period, during which employees, the CEC and other senior lay activists must refrain from social media activity in relation to or referencing the election. Further recommendations are made in respect of election addresses and canvassing, and the special report sets out a proposed timetable for the next General Secretary election. The overwhelming view of the Working Party was that we would ensure that no General Secretary GMB election would ever turn out like sister unions have done and the debacle that has then played out in the media. Turning to the elections of President and Vice President, brought into focus by the tragic passing of our beloved President Mary Turner, means that an election for President needs to be held this Congress. Let me walk you through, colleagues, what I think the issues are. First and foremost, it says in our rule book, and it's rule number 12, 12.1 at page 18, the President will be elected in 2005 and at every fourth ordinary Congress from then on, from among the members of Congress elected in line with Rule 8.4 for that year, and from the members of the CEC. That is talking about eligibility to stand for President. And what our rule says is that if you are a CEC member or a Congress delegate, you can stand for National President. The next part of the rule says, at 12.4, and forgive the language, it's in the rule book, it sounds a bit disrespectful, in the event of a casual vacancy, the Vice President assumes the presidency until next Congress. Of course, Mary's passing means that Malcolm has stepped up as Vice President to chair Congress, but it says until next Congress. 12.3 says the General Secretary must receive all nominations to elect a President by the Monday of the week before Congress. So here we have our rules saying that if you're a Congress delegate or a CEC person, you are eligible to stand for President. It says that in the event of a vacancy, the National Vice steps up and the election for National President will take place at the very next Congress, i.e. where we are now. It then says that any applicants who wish to be considered need to be into my office by last Monday, Monday before the start of Congress. All seems very clear. The difficulty is, colleagues, as pointed out by one of the senior lay activists who was on the working group, that breaks the law. The Trade Union Labour Consolidation Act of 1992 established that in trade unions there are certain key positions that have to be elected by the membership, the whole membership. Those two positions in the GMB are General Secretary and Treasurer and President. Therefore,
If we have, and we've taken legal advice about this, we've got written legal advice, and we also had a meeting of key people, Warren Kenny, who chaired the group so well, myself and a number of other key people met with the solicitor. And we went through with the solicitor about legalities or not. And the legal advice is this. If you are a Congress delegate, but not a member of the CEC, you are not deemed in law to have been elected by the members. So if you are a Congress delegate, you cannot stand for president, as it will be unlawful. It doesn't matter what our rulebook says. Of course, the law will trump our rulebook. So if we proceed with an election for president with CEC members, and I'll deal with that in a minute, but also non-CEC members, that would be unlawful. We would seek a challenge to the certification officer, and it would be ruled out of order. And the GMB would be dragged through all of the media circus that would follow. So why then, if you're a CEC member, are you eligible to stand? Well, of course, CEC members are elected by the membership. Every 4 years, you stand for CEC, you go out to election of the membership, and if you're elected, you then take your place at CEC. And let me take it further. Other sister unions, which we've looked at, they get their own CEC to elect their president. So it's just like you do in your regional councils. What happens when you're at your first regional council, when you've all been elected as the new regional council for your region, at the very first meeting, it's your regional council that then elects your own regional president. Other unions do the same for their national president. It's at their very first CEC, or whatever their equivalent, some of them call it the NEC, they elect their president. Now, in GMB terms, and what we've tried to do with the rule, is to say, no, we don't just want the CEC to elect our president, we want our Congress to elect our president. That is still possible, colleagues. If you adopt and endorse and support this report, which I'm encouraging you to do, that is still possible. But let me be clear. What it will do is it will take out anyone who is currently nominated who isn't a CEC member. And frankly, I heard the discussion earlier on today about, well, if it's a Congress delegate, they could sit at CEC but not vote. How honestly would that work? You have the person who is chairing, presiding over Congress and over our national executive who hasn't got the right to vote. That just wouldn't work and wouldn't fulfil what the GMB needs. So you have two choices. Either this report is adopted in its entirety, which does talk about eligibility to stand. It talks about you need to be a CEC member. It talks about eligibility to vote, that anyone at Congress is eligible to vote, including CEC members, in the exception of the national president only. So CEC and Congress delegates are able to vote. But the alternative, if this paper is defeated, means that you will forfeit your right to elect your president. Because we cannot go to an election of president in Congress if you have someone standing and we're told by legal advice it would be unlawful. So it will then go to a vote of all members sometime later in the summer. So we'll leave Congress with no national president and we'll go to an all-member vote, £300,000 of members' money. I'm not sure that's the best option. I'm not sure you want to concede your right to deliver your president each and every 4 years. So I'm asking you, please, to support this special report, to support the rule amendments that comply with that. Congress, I move. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Can I now call on Kath Sutton, North Western, to second?
Vice President Congress, Kath Sutton seconding the special report review of GMB elections. As a lay member of the Election Review Working Party, I fully endorse what the General Secretary said in moving the CEC special report review of the GMB elections. On CEC elections, the CEC is recommending that the nomination process is amended so that nominees can be nominated by branches without the need to countersign each nomination form, and nominees would then be sent an accept or decline form to complete rather than have the onerous task of trying to make arrangements to countersign each nomination form. Furthermore, ballot packs will only be sent by direct standalone mail in the future elections, unless there's a change in the law to allow the electronic votings. On the General Secretary's election, as well as the recommendations outlined by the General Secretary, the Working Party will reconvene to review election bylaws
including reviewing deadlines for financial returns. Breaches of bylaws leading to disqualification, criteria for eligibility to seek nominations which would focus on job description experience. Given new GDPR rules, the Union's Data and Protection Officer will be consulted in respect of safeguarding the Union's data during the election periods. I do not need to add what the General Secretary said about the elections of President, other than to ask Congress to endorse and adopt the CEC Special Report and related rules amendments so Congress can carry out its rule book rights to elect your next national president. I move.
Thank you, Kath. I will now call on one speaker from each region who wishes to put up a speaker. Birmingham.
Vice President, Congress, Leonard Grimmick, Birmingham and West Midlands region, speaking in support of the CEC Special Report of Review of GMB Elections and first-time speaker. The Birmingham and West Midlands region welcomes this report, and in the case of the CEC election process, we are pleased to see it has been somewhat streamlined to make the process easier for candidates to get information to returning officers by extending the deadline from 14 days than the current 10. This enables the nomination to go forward without the need of the nominee's counter-signature, which was unnecessarily time-consuming. It is also very sensible to have in place a procedure to enable electronic balloting once the law on electronic balloting is changed, which we hope is sooner rather than later. Being a lay representative of the Union, I am pleased to see these proposed changes will enable us to take part in the very important process of the CEC elections with as few barriers in place as possible, apart from those that are absolutely needed. The suggestion put forward for the election of the General Secretary and Treasurer is long overdue. Everyone and their dog knows that campaigning takes place in such elections, so it's common sense to try to legitimise this through properly organised hustings. Social media is with us whether we like it or not. So again, we need to attempt to control it, or at the very least, limit its use in the election period. Finally, Congress, it is eminently sensible to never again have ballot papers sent out with other publications. That was a mistake that should never be repeated, and I am pleased to see our General Secretary is brave enough to tackle this and change the process to make sure that lay member democracy is put at the top of GMB's agenda. Tim Roach said he was going to be an activist General Secretary, and he is being just that, by putting forward these changes to ensure activists play their part in making GMB elections fair, transparent and democratic. The Birmingham and West Midlands region supports. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. London.
Karen Dudley, London Region, speaking in support of the CEC Special Report on the Review of GMB Elections. Our Regional Secretary, Warren Kenny, was the chair of the Election Review Working Party, and therefore, as such, London Region wholeheartedly supports the recommendations and proposed rule changes enshrined in this report. On behalf of the London Region, we would also like to acknowledge the work undertaken by everyone on the Working Party, but special thanks must also go to Steve Short and Maria Ludkin, who both worked tirelessly to support the Working Party in constructing this report. We know this subject is not without controversy, but it was high time we examined our internal election processes and procedures
to bring them up to date. We've all seen how other unions have run elections for their General Secretary and the subsequent complaints to the certification officer causing allegations and relating to the misuse of membership data and union resources. We note from the report that there are now stricter proposals on the handling of security of membership data when conducting our internal elections. We also welcome the introductions of GPDR training for staff and branches and a more secure method of transferring our data via GMB branch email accounts being introduced. The GMB should always ensure we never fall foul of the new GDPR regulations and protect our members' data from any potential misuse or skullduggery when conducting these important elections. We support this special report.
Thank you, Karen. Midland.
President, Congress, Kerry Humphreys, speaking in support of the CEC report, Midlands and East Coast Region. Midlands and East Coast Region support the review of GMB elections for the following reasons. It fulfills our obligation to the trade union law. We get to elect our CEC members and we can trust that they are best placed to make the necessary decision, choice and decisions in voting when nominating our future candidates. When choosing our future CEC candidates, we, however, need to be mindful that they will be joining the pool of people with the potential to be the president of our union. Please support the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Northern. Northwest.
Congress, Arthur Moss speaking on behalf of North Western Irish Region in support of the special report. We're hoping that all Congress will support this, but I'm only asking one thing. If there's any paperwork to come out for vote, could you make sure it's in the Beano or the Dandy? I understand them better than the paperwork that came out last time. We do need to be a bit more mindful of how we vote and how we do it. And the last one was the biggest farce you've ever seen in your life. I hope you support this special report. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Scotland.
That was a good start.
Vice President, Congress. Annette Riley, GMB Scotland, speaking in opposition of the CEC Special Report on the review of GMB elections. GMB Scotland notes the reports on the elections but has a concern with the report, specifically the recommendation that only CEC members will be eligible for election to President and Vice President. The rationale behind this is that CEC members have been through a regional election for CEC. Congress, every member in this hall attending Congress has been through a regional election just to participate in any debate. Every regional council member has been through a regional election. Why should any other member who has been through a regional election be debarred from standing for President or Vice President? Is it a justifiable reason for not being eligible? I don't think so. Not to mention inequality that's present. Is that a route that we really want to go down again? I don't think so. Congress, we have always been a proud, member-led and democratic union. This part of the report is not democratic, and for the reasons previously given, GMB urge you to oppose the special report.
Thank you, Annette. Southern.
Okay, Steve Oates, Southern. We're supporting this motion.
and basically I'd just like to keep it nice and short and sweet and say the importance, I think, of getting a president in place quickly is what we should be focusing on here. And I think Tim sort of like mentioned it as well. If a ballot went out, for instance, it's going to have a very low turnout. We know that's the case. And it's going to cost an awful lot of money to do that. And I don't know about you, but I think, honestly, that money is best spent on campaigns for our members and best spent to give them hardship funds so that they can get out on picket lines and they can win disputes rather than spending it on bits of paper that no one's ever going to open. We support.
Thank you, Steve. South West.
Congress, Lorraine de Lazarete, Wales and South West Region, responding to the review of the GMB Elections Special Report. Acting President, Congress. This report correctly identifies the importance and the need for a thorough analysis of our relevant election procedures in order to ensure that they're sufficiently transparent, democratic, disciplined, and of course legally compliant. Any proposed changes should also seek to encourage more extensive levels of participation by members in the relevant election process. All too often in the past, low levels of voting turnout have served to devalue not only the process itself, but also question the support and endorsement of successful candidates. And we should continually seek to maximise the numbers of members who have an active involvement in the decision-making to be more involved. Apathy has the effect of questioning the mandate given to those who succeed. So encouraging more members to vote must be an ongoing priority objective. Higher turnouts are fundamentally to the credibility of the winners too. So we have to find a way of demonstrating that internal elections really do have an impact on how the GMB is led and run, and upon the members themselves. The revised proposals for CEC elections are sensible in the fact that they address the issue of the bureaucracy in the nomination procedure and helpfully tackle the awareness problem associated with mixing up ballot communications with other literature and other materials sent to members. Obviously, access to electronic balloting methods should remain as an objective. But separating out ballot information should continue to contribute, improving focus and stimulating engagement. With regard to the General Secretary and Treasurer elections, my region agrees that social media activity is exceptionally difficult to regulate and supports the ban on campaigning during the designated period of PERDA. We also approve of the proposals to abort the election to the widest membership audience by way of use of websites, a direct electronic contact to individuals. The concept branches having prior knowledge to potential nominees is very helpful, as previous nominations may well have been discussed because of the lack of knowledge and understanding to whom the likely runners and riders were. The threshold levels for nomination and their source regionally are realistic and reasonable too, ensuring that the size...
Thank you, Lorraine.
We support.
Now Yorkshire.
Vice President, Congress, Brian Golding, Yorkshire North Derbyshire Region, speaking on review of GMB elections. Congress, this report is long overdue and very welcome. Even before the lamentable participation rates in our last General Secretary and CEC elections put the matter front and centre, the level of engagement with members in national elections has been falling for years. Our democracy is the beating heart of our union. It needed a bypass. This report will help restore its health. The Working Party has come up with some sensible, practical proposals which we should fully support. Legal advice has been sought in relation to the President and Vice President elections. The legal advice is clear. CEC members satisfy the law and our rule book. It would be folly to ignore that advice, incur thousands of pounds of extra costs, turn the election into a free-for-all, and most importantly, take the election out of our President and Vice President out of the hands of this Congress. We believe that would be a mistake. In my own workplace, members vote for the shop stewards vote for the convener, and the convener vote for me, because them people know us working. So we support the review. Let's go on and elect a new president tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Kevin, do you want to speak against? Come on then.
Kevin Flanagan, North Western Irish region. Saddens me to have to get up here, but I think a lot of the report is good. But I think the part on the presidency is not good, not because of any self-interest. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not interested in that. But I think it's bad democracy when we shut down the nomination process only to the regional council, regional committee. I think that whole process is wrong. If we really want to be democratic, if we really want to engage the membership, if we really want them to get a sense of ownership of this movement, what do? Engage the branches in the nomination process. Why exclude them? You exclude them, I think the danger is you narrow down the chance of participation and engagement. I think the rule is wrong that it says it has to be an elected member of the CEC. I'll tell you why I think it's wrong. Because the legislation in the Act actually excludes any president who is not a voting member. The legislation doesn't apply to anybody who is elected as not a voting member. Let's take a scenario. If you have an ordinary lay delegate who gets elected but not a member of the CEC, they would not be a voting member because your rule book does not give the president a vote. It doesn't state in there it gives them a vote. So, in fact, it would still be valid. So, therefore, I can't agree with the part of the document that actually restricts democracy from you, the ordinary member back at grassroots. All wisdom does not reside in the CEC. In fact, now, if you get a chance to get on the CEC, you get a chance of a nomination. If you're on the regional council, you get a chance of nomination. But actually, ordinary members don't. Why is that? In fact, if you look at it now, the way it's going, you've got a 51% chance, a 51-to-1 chance of getting elected as president. All wisdom is not in the CEC, as much as I love them, but I think it's about time we opened up the doors and really had real democracy. If you want to bypass, don't bypass democracy. Don't bypass the right of ordinary members. Don't bypass the right to have a say. It's your movement. It's your say. And I don't want to upset this movement. I don't really want to upset it. I love it dearly. I've got so much passion for it. So don't think I'm trying to wreck anything. And I'm not in anybody's camp. Here, there, or everywhere. I'm in your camp. I'm in the ordinary lay members' camp. I'm in democracy's camp. That's where I stand. And in fact, I'm quite happy to accept tomorrow I will not stand as a president once you pass this report. Fair enough. That's the life. That's democracy. But at least it's democracy. At least it's democracy. But I think the only reason I've got up is because I think that section on president is badly flawed. We could have fixed it, but we've only looked at a very narrow option.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's not good enough.
I will now put the CEC Special Report Review to Congress. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried unanimous. Thank you very much, Congress. Congress, I will now ask that speakers on motions on Union Organising Congress please make themselves ready. Composite 1, London. Composite 2, London. Motion 8, North Western Irish. Motion 9, London, and Composite 3, London. Please come to the front. Today, please. We're getting a chance. I advised the new chance, so we're getting a chance out of there. Come on. Oh, you're unanimous. Were you unanimous? No, that's only one.
Sarah Hurley, London Region, moving Composite 1, Vice President, Congress. Firstly, I'd like to welcome all the first-time delegates to GMB Congress. Congress is a special and magical event that happens once a year and is 5 days long. Congress is not just where the democracy of the Union takes place, but a lot more than that. And when you talk to other members about Congress as a first-time delegate, you'll normally hear them say, "I will never forget my first Congress." This is because it allows you a platform to benefit the lives of others. It provides you an opportunity to change the rules of the Union. It allows you a safe place to overcome your fears and to challenge and overcome disabilities which may affect your public speaking. But that's not all. Congress is a place which opens your eyes about what it is to be a trade union member. You build friends with members from other regions. It recharges and energises our shop stewards to keep fighting for worker rights. It's a place where we remember trade union members we have lost, like our memory, but because of Congress, never forgotten. However, last year, we know Congress was shortened because of the general election. Our President Mary Turner, in an open address to Congress, said, "We are meeting this week at a shortened Congress because there is a general election." And this is the second time since I have been involved in the Union that this has happened. It is sad for new delegates. They have been looking forward to coming. But now is a time more than ever that we must stick together because we need a Labour government on Thursday. Furthermore, at the end of Congress last year, our General Secretary said, "I'm not going to speak for long Congress because you've been so cooperative in getting this Congress into 2.5 days, which ordinarily would have been 5. And no, it's not going to set a precedent for the future, believe me, although I've heard the rumours. But we were all surprised to see that this year Congress ending on a Wednesday with a packed agenda. Congress, I was a delegate at last year's conference, and it was incredibly difficult as delegates remained in the hall until the business of the day was done, which did mean some late closing, and members sacrificing their speeches to second formally, regardless of the work they'd put into writing them, just to cut time. Congress, I understand the CEC is the decision-making body of the Union in between Congresses and have the power to set the dates of Congress, but not the length. So I call on you to send a strong and clear message to all future Congress working parties, CEC members and the SNT and the General Secretary that this is our Union, our Congress and our family which ain't for cutting. I move.
Thank you, Sarah. Seconder.
Vice President, Congress, John Moffat, London Region. In line with the shortening of Congress, I've shortened my speech accordingly. I move.
Thank you, John. Composite 2, London.
Acting President, Congress, Brian Shaw, Chair of the National Equality Forum and London Region, proud to be moving the motion from the National Equality Conference, albeit now composited as C2. For new delegates and observers, every year the Equalities Conference votes on one of their motions to come to Congress, a demand that originated in London Region and was supported by the National Equality Conference and subsequently this Congress. Back in 2010, the then General Secretary proposed a rule amendment that every region and nation will be able to send an extra 10% of delegates that regional committee would agree to look to ensure that underrepresented groups will be appointed as delegates to ensure better representation. Indeed, new Rule 8.6 says the region's remaining 10% of delegates will be appointed by the Regional Committee to ensure that the regional delegation properly reflects the balance of the regional membership in respect of industry, geographical spread, ethnic, gender, disability, youth and sexual orientation. Appointments made under this rule will be in line with guidance from the Central Executive Committee. So from 2011, that rule applied. In 2014, the Women's Task Force recommended that regions and nations should seek gender balance of their Congress delegation, endorsed again by this Congress. I'd now like you to look at page 14 of your final agenda. That shows you that we have not achieved a gender balance. Indeed, 100 extra men than women are delegates to this conference. We do not know the information around LGBT, disability, youth or BAME. It is perceived that branches are using the ability to nominate a second delegate as a woman delegate post. Other minority groups potentially missing out. So our aspirations and policy of this Congress is not being achieved. This motion calls for a review of how Rule 8 is actually being operated and actually proposing changes that maybe should come to Congress in 2019. And indeed, if we need rule amendments to change it, let's have those in 2019. As the CEC stance on this motion says, in terms of the motion, that may just need a tweak to the form and all well and good. But isn't it right to have a review as it may identify other issues that need addressing? Page 14 of your agenda suggests that is the case. It does not need a long-winded review. The Equality Action Group, if you remember, showed what we can achieve, great change, and delivered around the CEC Rule Amendments, so it can be done in a short period of time. There are other big issues, I know, going on. But, so we do need to support this motion. I'm going to finish with a big shout-out for our member of the NEF, Becky Irons, who has actually been seriously ill. So get well, Becky. Thank you. I move.
Thank you, Brian. Seconded.
Sarah Hurley, London Region, seconding Composite 2, Vice President Congress. The purpose of Rule 8.6 and 8.7 is to increase all strand groups' attendance at Congress to reflect the makeup of our membership. I believe that every region, including the National Equality Forum and the regional equality forums, need to be included in the review called by this motion. We need to do better in making this Congress representative, and this is a step in the right direction. Congress, I second.
Thank you, Sarah. Motion 8, North Western Irish.
Vice President, Congress, Peter Macklin, North Western Irish Region. Colleagues, this motion is not about denying or curtailing delegates their right to speak. In fact, the reverse is true. It's about ensuring that those offering opposing views are afforded the time and opportunity to express those views, so that these alternative views and opinions can be openly debated, to enable delegates to make a balanced and informed decision when casting their vote. Unfortunately, a lot of valuable time is taken up during Congress by numerous speakers echoing the same view and sentiment as that of the original speaker and mover. Do we really need this level of repetition? The fact that a motion remains unchallenged would indicate that it is a good, strong motion in its own right and will stand on its own merits, without the need for numerous speakers regurgitating the same sentiments and opinions and potentially using valuable time that would be better served discussing and debating those issues that may be more controversial or contentious and are more deserving of the time needed for speakers promoting both sides of their respective arguments. I move, please support.
Thank you, Peter. Seconder.
Vice President, Congress, Andy McCann, NWI. So already I'm starting to shorten. Thanks, folks. I'm speaking on behalf of motion 8. Seconded. Folks, it's a good motion, and we would encourage you to support it. I second.
Thank you, Andrew. Motion 9, London.
Brendan Duffield, London Region, moving motion 9. Fringe meetings need to be professionally filmed. I've been coming to Congress for many years, and the fringe events have always been a major part of the week. Every lunchtime, I have to decide which one I will go to. I've had a great choice over subjects over the years: blacklisting or academies, renationalising of the railways, show racing the red card, and my favourite was Owen Jones talking about class, which we promoted. I even found myself going without lunch to attend, which was and is very unusual, you know what I mean? 2 years ago at Bournemouth, I got up on the stage and I asked for fringe meetings to be professionally filmed. I thought, why all the experts to be on show only once? We have hundreds of stewards and members across the country who would benefit from seeing these meetings. We broadcast our own Congress on the internet, so why not the fringes? Now, that was 2 years ago. Our General Secretary said, "Brendan, fringe meetings are interesting." What a brilliant point. Get it filmed, cut out some of the rubbish. Tim said, "I do not know quite what that would leave you with, brother. But seeing as I've spoken at most of them, what a brilliant idea and point." It hasn't happened yet, which is why I'm bringing it up again. It is still a brilliant point, even if I come up with it myself. I said professionally filmed, and I thought big old video cameras, nah. But you don't need that today. Nowadays, everyone will, with a little mobile phone, can be filmed and an editor. By 2019, it will be easier even still. Everybody is on YouTube. We should be as well. Congress, I move.
Thank you, Brendan. Seconder.
Vice President, Congress. Mark Watson, London Region, seconding motion 9, fringe meetings need to be professionally filmed. There is a voracious appetite for video on the web, and that goes not just for teasers about the latest blockbuster film. The market is there for the niche as well, and our union is a very large niche. The GMB have a YouTube channel, and they seem to have been adding to it since about 2010. They have 149 videos at the moment. Some of them have got very high viewing figures. Why Working People Care About the EU Referendum has had 29,546 views since it went live in 2016. On Sunday, at an equality fringe, Angela Rayner, MP and Shadow Education Minister, made an impromptu speech about the difficulties faced by a teenage working-class ginger and how she proved people wrong. And those were her words, by the way, not mine. It was a brilliant speech and deserved to be preserved for posterity, but only 24 people were in the room to hear it. Since last year's Congress, we put up 25 videos with 11,500 hits between them. One of the greatest hits is, not surprisingly, GMB Congress 2017. So the evidence is there. There is an appetite for the political video. It doesn't have to cost the earth. Every phone can now be a full editing suite. The idea was first put up 2 years ago. We can do it now. Congress, I second the motion.
Thank you, Mark. Composite 3, London.
Hi, Vice President, Congress. Vic Paulino, London Region, first-time delegate and speaker. Thank you. So I'm actually moving this motion without support of the London Region. I didn't know it was going to be live streamed. I would have definitely had my hair cut. Hello, Mum. Anyway, for the serious business, right. So the CEC is seeking withdrawal of the motion on the grounds that their position on accepting money from the TUFI for a stall changed last year. When the resolution was written, this was unknown to us, otherwise the wording would have been submitted and it would have been totally different. The CEC decision goes against the previous decision referred to in the resolution, and the GMB would not accept any money from this organisation. It also goes against the spirit of the resolution 314 carried at 2013 conference in Plymouth, and the full apology given by the previous General Secretary to North West London branch for the breaking of that resolution by sending a delegation on the TUFI visit in 2015. It also places the GMB in a ludicrous position of agreeing to accept money from an organisation whose policies are in direct opposition to those agreed at GMB Congress. It goes against a full-paid advert in The Guardian on the 2nd of November 2016, signed by the current General Secretary, Tim, on behalf of the GMB, but not in a personal capacity, that listed 11 reasons why the government should be apologising to the Palestinian people for the actions of the British government. 11 reasons trade union friends of Israel would be wholly against. It goes against the spirit of the letter in The Guardian signed by the current General Secretary on behalf of the GMB on the 19th of April this year, calling for a stand to be taken against the killings in Gaza and Israel's unlawful siege and military occupation of Gaza, East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Again, positions TUFI would totally be opposed to. It goes against GMB's affiliation to Palestine Solidarity Campaign and goes against our support as determined by Congress for the boycott and disinvestment campaigns. Again, positions totally opposed by TUFI. We are prepared to take money from an organisation who has policies in direct opposition to those of GMB decided by Congress. It makes us look ludicrous, mercenary and having totally double standards. Would you, Congress, allow, God forbid, the Tories a stall because they paid for it at our conference? No. Anyway, we are prepared on this occasion to withdraw the motion as TUFI do not actually have a stall this year, but we intend to keep the situation under close scrutiny. Yeah, so we will withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Seconder. Formally, thank you. I will now call on Sheila Bearcroft, CEC member for Wales and South West, to respond on behalf of the CEC.
Thank you, Malcolm. Sheila Bearcroft, speaking on behalf of the CEC. The CEC are seeking the withdrawal of Composite 1 and Composite 3. We are also asking that Composite 2 and Motion 9 be referred. On Composite 1, Rule 8.2 gives the CEC the power to determine how long Congress is by setting the dates of Congress, the dates that Congress starts and ends. The Congress Working Party made recommendations agreed by the senior management team at their meeting held on the 4th of September 2017. And this recommendation was proposed to the Central Executive Council on the 5th of September 2017 under Rule 8.2, that section conferences to be held on the Sunday of Congress week in 2018, and that Congress would be held without a break, starting on Monday and finishing on the Wednesday, if possible. This recommendation was accepted and agreed by the CEC in line with the CEC's obligation under Rule 8.2. Congress, the CEC has not shortened Congress. There is no rule that Congress will be a set number of days, nor is there a rule that sets a minimum or a maximum number of days for the length of Congress. Custom and practice has led to Congresses that generally last 4 full days, plus however long it is needed on the 5th day to complete business, including and incorporating section conferences in alternative years. Congress, Motion 2, carried by Congress 2017, now included in the guidelines for Congress business, printed in the final agenda, was, and I quote, concerned at the extended period over which the business of annual Congress is conducted, and asked the CEC to ensure that the time of this event is used to optimally as possible and to limit the time set aside for paid officials and guest speakers. In considering the length of Congress 2018 under Rule 8.2 obligations, the CEC looked into consideration of the points raised in Motion 2 from 2017 and determined that section conferences be held on the Sunday of Congress week in 2018, and the Congress would be held without a break, starting on Monday and finishing on Wednesday if possible. GMB Congress is unique in that it always covers its full agenda without dropping any business, and this will not change. On Composite 3, the motions involved quote the CEC Political, European and International Committee minutes of February 2016. However, since then, in 2017, both the CEC Finance and General Purposes Committee and the Central Executive Council have debated this matter, and this supersedes the 2016 minute. The CEC position is that trade unions for Israel can exhibit so long as they pay their stand, which is with Congress policy. TUFI were not able to attend Congress 2018, but this will remain the CEC's position. As Congress is aware, Palestine Solidarity Campaign are also, of course, present in the exhibition area. On Composite 2, the rule states it is a matter for each regional committee to determine appointments made under Rule 8.7. Appointments are made in line with CEC guidance it issued to regional committees each year. However, it may be timely to review the nomination forms issued to branches for appointments of delegates. Under Rule 8.7 and the Equality Action Group, it could be reformed to review and, if necessary, update this nomination form to give regional committees the fullest information to enable them to make an informed decision on making up their delegation. Therefore, we are asking for Composite 2 to be referred to the CEC through the Equality Action Group, are able then to review Rule 8.7 nominations forms. On Motion 9, the CEC is determined to make GMB Congress as accessible as possible to delegates, visitors and members watching back on Congress TV activity via our YouTube channel, Facebook Live, Twitter feed. Don't do any of those. And on the website, it is an important part of documenting our debates and policy that is passed, which shapes and the direction of our union. The CEC is asking this to be referred, as our main focus is to have the activity on the main conference floor documented and at the highest possible standard. And there is in where our costs are focused. The concern with this motion lies in the request for them all to be professionally filmed, as we fear this will make it unaffordable to fulfil the request. However, it is worth being referred to the Finance and General Purposes Committee to look at the costings and to make an informed decision. Therefore, Congress, the CEC is asking for Composite 1 and Composite 3 to be withdrawn, and for Composite 2 and Motion 9 to be referred for the reasons I have laid out. Thank you very much, Congress.
Thank you, Sheila. Does the mover of Composite 1 wish to withdraw? You're withdrawing? No, you're not. Right. So Composite 1, they've refused to withdraw. The CEC are seeking that you oppose that Composite. All those in favour, please show. All those against? That's lost. The mover of Composite 2, do you wish to refer? Thank you. Composite 2 wish to refer. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Composite 8 is supported by the CEC. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Composite 9, mover wish to refer? Thank you. The mover said they will refer Composite 9. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. And Composite 3 was withdrawn at the rostrum. Thank you very much for that. We'll move on now to the union organisation. And motion 13, Wales and South West, 14, Southern, 15, Wales and South West, Composite 4, London, and WSW, and 20, Midlands. Can they please come to the front, please? And can the Speaker of motion 13 please come to the rostrum?
Trade Union Day. Chair, Congress, Jennifer Smith, Wales and South West Region, move in motion 13, Trade Union Day. Congress, as trade unionists, we know exactly the campaigns, policies, motions and equality work we undertake in everyday lives, which benefits and supports hundreds and thousands of members every year. As the motion states, beside our very hard work and campaigning, our trade union membership of young members is declining year on year. Colleagues, trade union membership has declined steeply in the 1980s and 1990s, to around 7.3 million in the year 2000. We are all aware that this is parallel with the reduction of many traditional industries which has been highly unionised, such as steel, coal, printing, the docks and shipbuilding. We all know that Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government did to our trade unions, and what the Conservatives passed as the new Trade Union Act, which attempts to decline and put barriers in our way to grow stronger, and has clearly put barricades in the way of our members, preventing them to air their voices and stop their democratic rights. Colleagues, we must reverse this trend. We are all aware that the GMB has a growing concern that young people simply do not know what trade unions are. Consequently, we have all been actively looking at new ways of organising young workers by encouraging young people of all genders, ethnic backgrounds and ability into our union. We need them to lead the way into creative organising, using social media and continue seeking out and fighting injustice. We need a trade union to ensure our foundation are built into towers, led by our young and future generation, bringing modern and developing campaigns into the forefront of a new way forward. Conference. Trade Union Day can be used to encourage and campaign in school and organisation to celebrate the success and contributions of trade union movement. Sister, brothers, we need to re-educate our nation of modern day relevance and develop trade unions into a more powerful organisations than we already are. Please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Jennifer. Seconder.
Acting President, Congress, Margaret Docherty, Wales and South West Region. Congress, the young generation has it tough. Under the previous coalition government and the current Conservative government, the younger generation have faced high employment rates, removal of housing benefit, and yet our membership of young people in our trade union is in decline, although we are one of the few organisations that could actively help them. The student union is integral to university itself. Effectively, it works as an independent force to represent all students. There would be no Threshers' Fair, societies of welfare support without it, and every student within universities are members of the Students' Union, whether they like it or not. There should be a special bond between students and the trade union movements. This should be even more important at a time when the future appears bleak for many of our members. Although this does not offer an explanation as to why trade union membership is so low amongst young people. The feeling of powerlessness and instability is rife within the rising generation who are squeezed by global recession and biting financial pressures. Perhaps we can reflect from this that young people do not join unions because they feel as if we will not do anything to help them. Conference, we need to change this overall image because more young people and school children need to have a clear understanding and knowledge of the strengths they are able to bring to a trade union and ensure their views, issues and future is addressed. Our families and ancestors created a trade unions for the working people and communities. Let's re-educate and make a stronger union for their future and the GMB's future. Let's create a trade union day. Please support.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. 14.
Roxana Fraser, Southern Region, first-time delegate. Motion 14, addition of GMB at Tolpuddle to National Policy Guide. This conference will be aware that within the GMB Policy Guide, under the heading GMB General, it's current policy that regions and branches are to promote and support the outstanding annual Durham Miners Gala. This motion is asking Congress to add GMB Tolpuddle to its policy section, as we believe this procession merits the approval and promotes the values the GMB stand for, protecting and fighting for workers' rights. In 1833, 6 men of the Tolpuddle in Dorset founded the Friendly Society of Agricultural Labourers to protest the gradual lowering of agricultural wages. This act saw the type of backlash from local establishment which until this day is still a template for undermining the collective organising of workers. The mechanism of isolating, intimidating and blacklisting was born as an acceptable establishment mechanism to trample on workers and their rights. With a ceremonial act of swearing an oath, 6 local men were condemned by disgraceful acts of local aristocracy and judiciary. Their work, families, and indeed their lives were destroyed by a 7-year sentence and transportation to the penal colonies. For many years, the GMB have been proud attendees of the annual Tolpuddle Festival, commemorating the struggles of the martyrs. Trade union colleagues, sisters, brothers and families are attending from across the GMB regions to listen to the pillars of the labour and trade union movement, to see friends and colleagues celebrate the martyrs, but moreover, to come together, not only the GMB family, but as part of the greater trade union movement. GMB at Tolpuddle is an opportunity for members and their families to spend a week camping in the fields of Dorset at no cost to members or their guests, learning the history, making history, meeting with friends and comrades and building new relationships. Conference, we ask that GMB at Tolpuddle is added to the GMB National Policy Guide under the heading GMB General to sit alongside and receive the same support as the Durham Miners Gala.
Thank you, Roxana. Seconder.
Congress, President, my name is Helen O'Connor from the Southern Region, and I'm seconding this motion, Motion 14. Congress, lessons can be drawn from the history of the Tolpuddle martyrs that are still important for our movement. It began with the struggle of farming people who had nothing and who had no choice but to organise in the face of oppression, desperation and starvation. It is scandalous that parallels can be drawn between how people lived in the 1800s and the way many working class people are forced to live today. Oppression, desperation and starvation exists today as the Tories smash the welfare state and public services. Big employers like ISS, Interserve, Mighty drive our brothers and sisters into poverty in order to hike up their profits. In 2013, the Tory party attacked the right of our class when they introduced the anti-trade union laws. In the days of Tolpuddle, those who owned and controlled everything also feared the power of working class people rising up and making demands. Even though the Combination Act legalised the right to organise, the landlords, the courts and the judges came together to stop the 6 brave men of Tolpuddle fighting against wages being lowered. They scoured their law books and found a way to get rid of them. However, the legal system proved to be no match against the organised anger of 100,000 people led by determined trade unionists. The campaign led to the release of the Tolpuddle martyrs and it swelled the rank of our movement. Trade union membership has declined in recent years, but the history of the Tolpuddle martyrs holds the key to reinvigorating our movement. Wherever injustice occurs and bold, determined leadership is given, people gain the confidence to join our movement and to fight back. The Tolpuddle martyrs were 6 real people who risked everything to build the proud labour movement we are all part of today. The history of the Tolpuddle martyrs proves that it is true to say that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Please support the motion.
Thank you, Helen. 15.
Alan Law, London Region, moving motion 15, support of the Burst and Strike rally. President, Congress, for those of you who don't know about the Burst and Strike, it began on the 1st of April 1914. Teachers Tom and Annie Higdon were dismissed from their posts in the rural village of Burston, Norfolk. Then the longest strike in history began on that day. The children marched around the village with cards hanging from the necks demanding, "We want our teachers back." The banner at the head of the march was inscribed with just one word: justice. 66 children had gone out on strike in the support of their teachers. The boycott of local authority school lasted for the next 25 years. This conference should note the long-standing Burston school strikes take place every year on the first Sunday in September. This, brothers and sisters, is the longest strike in history, not staged by miners, coal, but by miners, the children of the village. In line with the National Support Act for the Durham Miners Gala, we call for national endorsement and support through the advertising and promotion of this event. We would like to see a significant GMB presence at this rally. This is another opportunity for GMB members and their families to unite our fight for the working class, education and trade union rights. I move.
Thank you, Alan. Seconder.
Jan Smith, London Region, President, Congress. The mover, Alan, has given you a bit of the history on the Burston Strike School. But I can tell you that Annie and Tom Higdon started out their teaching career back in Wood Dorling, again a rural, very rural village in Norfolk. They were offered a promotion to go to Burston. They packed up their bags and took this promotion and trottled along the rural country lanes till they arrived at Burston. From there, that is when those people, although they offered them that position, they didn't like their teaching skills, and hence the strike began, and it began by the children. Congress, this strike and the celebration of Burston Strike, as Alan says, takes place every first Sunday of every year. So we would like to see more GMB presence at that strike celebration. They are both buried in Burston Cemetery, got a beautiful grave which is always maintained, which you could visit, and also on that day you will meet up and celebrate with a lot of other people. Burston Strike School is as important in the celebration as the Tulpadle Martyrs celebration and the Durham Miners celebrations. So please, GMB, get your buses out, bring your delegation, and we look forward to seeing you in Norfolk the first Sunday in September. I second.
Thank you, Jan. Composite 4.
Congress, Vice President Doug Rigby, London Region, moving motion 17. Privacy of members' records. Markham, I'll keep it short. Congress, we demand that any and all of the members of the union's personal information that is gathered by GMB is and has been made secure, and assurance is guaranteed to all members that it will be safe and protected. In light of the introduction of the GDPR, it is paramount that members feel safe in handing out their data to GMB. Over 12 months ago, our branch secretary stood down and a new secretary took over. The role of our branch is still having our branch accounts sent to the old secretary. It's a good job, he's very amicable, trustworthy, and hasn't moved. We have seen on Facebook and other sites where people's data has been misused and passed on to third parties. In this day and age, where lots of people use computers, it's so easy for information to fall into the wrong hands and make people vulnerable. Congress, I ask you to support this motion.
Thank you, Douglas. Seconder.
Vice President, comrades, Linda Moore, Wales and South West Region, seconding Composite 4, email security. When I became a branch secretary, albeit just for 18 months, I had it drummed into me by the office secretary that if I sent an email to a group of members that I should blind copy the message. I noticed that whenever I received a message from any of the regional officers that this wasn't what they were doing, and anybody who received one of these messages could read the emails of all the other recipients. Since the data protection law has been strengthened, this has stopped, so it is good to know that our officers and staff are obeying the new law. I recently received the GMB guide on the new law. However, training needs to be given to the lay members in the understanding and implementation of this law so as not to make any mistakes and bring the GMB into any legal action. I second this motion.
Thank you, Linda. Motion 20.
Tony Chollerton, London Region, moving motion 20, paperless GMB. Acting President, Congress. This Congress believes that GMB should try, where possible, to reduce the amount of paper it uses by adopting a scheme where workplace organisers and members can opt to receive correspondence electronically. This would improve GMB's environmental impact, reduce costs, and make GMB more appealing to environmentally aware people of all ages. This Congress notes that in an electronic age of change, GMB must keep up with technology and the changes that it allows. As a branch secretary, I see duplication of correspondence. A lot of the letters I receive through the post are also sent via email. This is both wasteful and unnecessary. Adopting a more eco-friendly balance will not only save GMB a significant amount of money, but will also help GMB reps to recruit young people. Many people, both young and old, are now taking the paperless option of receiving utility bills. Magazines from various organisations are preferred in electronic format by a significant number of people. GMB regional magazines are available in electronic form, as is the GMB Rule Book, which can be downloaded from the GMB website. Although the general data protection regulations have now come into force, this should not affect this motion, as it would involve people opting into a paperless GMB. Congress is aware that there are times where it is necessary to use paper. Every year we ballot our members on whether to accept or reject pay awards and changes to our terms and conditions. There will be other things that also require printed documents, but to do nothing would be wrong. This motion won't make GMB totally paperless, but it's a step in the right direction. It's time for GMB to look closely at the duplication that currently exists and take measures to reduce waste and to redirect any savings into campaigning for our core values. Congress, please support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Anthony. Seconder.
Andrea Marquez, London Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Congress, I am seconding this motion 20 because we agree GMB paperless is the future. With this measure, we will save time and money by cutting costs associated with paper, ink, and file space. We can eliminate all file storage and be compliant with Data Protection Act. Congress will make GMB eco-friendly and we will add some sense of security to all our members. We believe we could use GMB paperless as an opportunity to attract and recruit new members by revamping online applications. Please support. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. I will now call on Neil Derrick, Yorkshire Regional Secretary, to respond on behalf of the CEC.
Thank you, Vice President. Congress, Neil Derrick, Yorkshire Regional Secretary. Congress, on motion 13, the CEC are supporting, but with a qualification. The motion calls for an annual trade union day to promote the good work that unions do. We are, of course, doing exactly that every day this week, and we do it 365 days of the year. We want, however, to work with the TUC to develop the I Heart Unions Week to give it a sharper focus, a more coordinated edge, and as the motion requests, to have one day in that week where the aim is specifically to reach into schools and colleges and promote trade union achievements on rights at work. Composite 4 and Motion 20 are connected by GDPR. Composite 4 first. GDPR now makes trade union membership legally sensitive information, akin to people's medical information and financial data. Non-compliance with GDPR can now attract huge fines. But the truth is, for the GMB, reputational damage is the bigger risk. Who would join a union that could not be trusted with its members' personal information? No one. So we've been doing a huge amount of work to ensure that we can be trusted and are compliant with the new law. We set up a national working group, which I chair. We appointed the National Data Protection Officer, Bob Robinson. Each region has now appointed a regional data protection contact. We have trained all our staff right across the union. We have updated our data protection and privacy policies. We devised and secured data sharing agreements with every external organisation with whom we share our membership information. For example, ERS, who carry out industrial action ballots on our behalf, or any mail houses that we use to send out large bulk communications to members on our behalf. We have produced a GDPR Reps Guide and Workbook, which has been sent to every rep in the union and will be covered on every IST and on all GMB induction courses from now on. We've developed an online e-learning course for reps, which will be available within the next few weeks. We are running a workshop here tomorrow at lunchtime. We've set up a GMB activists email account for every branch secretary in the union, all 850, so that we can be confident when sending members information that it is safe and secure. We've changed our joining form so that it is compliant with the law and now gives members a choice on contact preferences. And we've updated our website so that the options and privacy policies are there also. All done, colleagues, to protect the integrity of our members' information and personal details. No union has done more on this than the GMB. For GDPR signals a permanent change in how we collect, handle and store membership information. It must, of course, be ongoing. So the CEC asks for Composite 4 to be referred so we can evaluate the changes we already made and explore the other benefits we can further derive from developments in technology and report back to Congress next year. Finally, Motion 20. The CEC is asking you to refer. The motion calls for a reduction in the amount of paper we use by allowing all reps and members to receive all communications electronically. The CEC want to have a look at this, as we do as a result of GDPR have to allow members the choice of how they receive information. So they have the right to receive information on paper. However, GDPR, like it or not, gives us an opportunity to consider smarter, more secure electronic methods of communication, and the CEC wants to do that and report back to you. So in summary, Congress, CEC is asking you to support Motion 13 with the qualification, refer Composite 4 and refer Motion 20. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Colleagues, before I go to the vote, the next section is union organisation, where there's 6 motions. We're not going to get time to pull them in before lunch, but we can take item 20, which is employment policy, where there's only 2 motions. With your permission, I'd like to go to that one after this. Is that okay? Thank you. We'll now go to the vote. Motion 13 is the mover of that motion from South West. Agree to the qualification? Agreed? Thank you. Congress agree? All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. Motion 14 is supported by the CEC. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. The mover of motion 15 is also supported by the CEC. All those in favour, please show. That's carried. Motion Composite 4 is the mover of Composite 4 agreed to refer. Thank you. They agreed to reference. All those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. And motion 20 from the London region, do they support the qualification? Reference. Do they support reference back? Yeah, thank you. Congress, all those in favour, please show. Any against? That's carried. Right, we'll now move on to to item 20, which is employment policy. And can I have the movers of motion 147 and 148 from North Western Irish to the rostrum, please? One 147 formally moved. Is it formally seconded? Thank you. What about 148? That's where it's going. Is that formally moved? Formally seconded? Thank you. They've both been supported by the CEC, so I'll take them both together. 147, 148. Conference agree, please show. Any against? They've carried. Right, well, we'll move back then to the others. We'll take some of them. You don't want to waste conference time. Can I have motions 24, 26 and 27 to the front, please? And motion 24 to the rostrum. Thank you.
David Leakes, Southern Region, moving motion 24. President, comrades, the gig economy and zero-hour contracts are affecting young workers, especially they are trying to gain much-needed workplace experience. And if, like a lot of us, they have left school with little or no qualifications. Young people know little about unions and what we can achieve together. As unions are mentioned less and less in the popular press in a positive way, today is a prime example regarding this issue. In the press this morning, we need a firm strategy for engaging and reaching young members so they're not exploited. Let's build that 21st century union. I move.
Thank you, David. Seconder.
Joe Abel, Branch W32, Southern Region. I second the motion. Mr. President, fellow delegates, the Resolution Foundation released a report recently about the intergenerational contract and how it had been broken, much as the social contract has been broken. The TUC this morning released a similar report on the 150th anniversary of the Manchester Conference. So with that in mind, the one thing everyone can remember from that first report by the Resolution Foundation is the idea to give every millennial £10,000, which, as a millennial, I approve. As a union rep, however, I say don't take the first offer. But yeah, other than make John Humphrey spit his cornflakes out, that didn't really do much. So, with that in mind, I would like to play the intergeneration game, where I try and remember all of the other things from the report. Precocious work on 0 hours, dangerous work and inadequate safety provision, tuition fees, McJobs, the gig economy, malnutrition, a cuddly toy, although due to EU regulations being lapsed, that is full of asbestos. Freedom of movement, or at least less of it. Inequality of opportunity, unpaid internships, withdrawal of child benefit for third children and housing benefit caps, an increase in pollution, and all the Transformers films. Mr. Speaker, I move to second the motion.
Thank you, Joe. Motion 26. Motion 26.
Vaughan Thomas, London Region, moving motion 26, increase in community campaigning.
I know and understand that much, if not most, of the union's focus is on members' workplaces, and in the first instance, this is right and proper. However, our members don't exist in a parallel universe, separate from the communities they live in. More than that, though, especially when their workplaces have a more direct impact on the public, regardless of whether they're in the public or private sectors, when members' workplace interests coalesces with that of the community. I recently advised several school support staff members facing redundancy due to funding cuts. They were called into the head teacher's office and given a choice, in inverted commas. They could either accept redundancy or they could go through a formal consultation. Either way, they were told there was no money to pay the wages for the next academic year. We all live in the real world, and we know all about the government's austerity programme. The members couldn't see the point of going through a consultation, so I accepted this fait accompli, although very unhappy with this turn of events. The next day, the head teacher sent out an urgent email to the members to tell them in no uncertain terms that their redundancies were a confidential matter, not to be discussed with other staff and certainly not to be discussed with parents. Congress. Our members were supporting children with special educational needs. There were also parent support advisors. Their redundancies have a very real impact on the local community, and what adds insult to injury is that this decision was a matter of weeks before the local elections. Do you not think the local community would have wanted to know about this? The interest of our members is also of interest to the local community, and we should be getting our message out there to involve the community, especially when it impacts directly on that community. No more should our members be going silently into the good night. When it affects our members' livelihoods and that of the community, we should be shouting it from the rooftops and involving that community. Congress, I move.
Thank you, Vaughan. Seconded.
Sharon Wilson, London Region. Second motion 26. President, Congress. Our members are just as members of local communities as they are the GMB. We need to organise beyond the workplace, as in this age of austerity, our members' interests are also the interests of their local community. A good example of this can be found in our schools. Cuts in schools have a direct impact on families across the communities. Some schools are closing at 1 p.m. on Fridays. How is this not going to impact on parents that are members of our union and their communities? By widening our organising and campaigning, we would be acting in our members' best interest. I second.
Thank you, Sharon. Motion 27.
Danny Faith, London Region, moving motion 27, review of GMB at work. Acting Vice President, Congress. This motion calls for a review of GMB at work, something we haven't done since 2007. This isn't about changing the fundamental principles behind GMB at work, which were spelt out in the 2007 review, which I'll read to you now. The GMB at work organising strategy aims to tackle long-term membership decline within existing budgets, changing how we work as a union to make sure membership growth becomes central to all we do. Using the process of bargaining to grow the union, organising every workplace as if a ballot for action was imminent, and mobilising members to organise themselves, setting their agenda in the workplace. I fully support these principles, but having said that, there are good reasons for review. 10 years have gone by and we need to look at what has worked and what hasn't. We cannot afford to stick to policies if they're not delivering for us as a union. And on the other hand, this can be an opportunity to learn from the successes in particular industries or regions. But there are other developments that have occurred since then, the gig economy, data protection and growth of social media. We therefore believe it is high time for an honest, transparent and thorough review of GMB at work. Please support this motion.
Thank you, Danny. Seconded.
President, Congress, Cathy Holland, seconding motion 27. GMB at work appears to rely on conveners, reps and workplace organisers to have responsibility for some recruitment and most representation. It's all right for people like me who've been doing it a long time, but I talk to new reps who feel overwhelmed by the amount of work they're expected to do. As a convener for the council, I was often asked to work in the private sector, for which I did not mind, but my council has been very flexible because I've been doing it a long time and they tended to leave me alone. But obviously, it's not like that now. They tend to want their pound of flesh. And I would obviously work 12-hour day. Luckily, I have an understanding family, as I was only paid 7.5 hours. We need more support from our union to be able to have someone to help, otherwise we will lose that support. At Congress, we voted to be shop stewards. The union must remember that. I second.
Thank you, Cathy. Colleagues, there's 3 motions left in that thing. It's 28, Composite 5 and 31. I shall be taking them this afternoon, first thing, after the presentations of the awards. So if the people for those 3 motions will be ready. Now, I can just say one thing, is that a bit of information. There is no designated smoking areas outside, but there are council bins with ashtrays, and the council will fine anyone who is seen dropping a butt on the pavement, so please be careful. Your Congress credentials entitles you to a GMB Congress 2018 gift, which is a leather folder, which is in your Congress wallets or rucksack. If you wish to swap for a non-leather version, please go to the National Office stand in the foyer to exchange. Colleagues, that concludes Congress for this morning. You can find details of fringe meetings and workshops in the Congress Guide. Fringe meetings start on page 16 and workshops start on page 54. No, we'll take the vote as a block this afternoon. Sorry about that. And June Minnie will think. Enjoy the fringe meetings and workshops. Don't forget to also visit the exhibitors out behind the Congress Hall, and please be back for 2 o'clock. I assure you I will be started 2 dead on. Thank you very much, Congress. Enjoy your lunch.